All right, Giants Nation. So I just finished watching episode 2 of The Hard Knocks, and I wanted to give my thoughts on episode 2 and point out a couple of things that I saw. So while I'm watching the episodes, I try to jot down some of the things that I see that interests me. And the first thing I want to talk about is the draft interviews. We interviewed the top 3 quarterbacks, JJ McCarthy, who's number 4 in my opinion, and then the top 3 wide receivers. None of the interviews stood out to me except for 3. So I want to talk about Marvin's interview. In Marvin's interview, they showed him a video of a quarterback throwing a bad pass, and they wanted to see what his reaction would be. And Marvin says that he would not say anything to the quarterback. He just goes out there and makes a play. I like that, but at the same time, I think the Giants were expecting him to say, oh, I would talk to the quarterback and say, hey, maybe encourage him. But Marvin says he wouldn't say anything. So I think the Giants looked at Marvin like, I guess if you're available, we would draft you. But they really like Malik Neighbors. So Malik Neighbors, they basically asked him what would he do if he's not involved in the offense. And he basically says that you would know that he would be upset and he'd be visibly upset. And they actually seem very impressed with Malik Neighbors. They seem like that's the guy that they want. They seem like they really like the fact that he's a firecracker, and they feel like that's what they're missing on this team, is somebody who's going to be like the emotional leader. I think he will be the emotional leader, especially on offense, because he's going to call out the situation if he's not liking it. So if he's not getting the football, he's going to complain about, I'm not getting the football. If Daniel Jones is playing bad, I'm pretty sure Daniel Jones will hear about it. And everybody who doesn't like Daniel Jones definitely likes that. I've seen people say that the one thing you can guarantee with Malik Neighbors is that he will be very vocal if Daniel Jones is playing like trash. And I agree. And I'm here for it, because at the end of the day, the craziest thing I heard in that episode was Joe saying that he spoke to Daniel Jones, because he said Daniel, so I'm assuming it's Daniel Jones, and told Daniel Jones that, they are looking into Malik Neighbors, and Daniel Jones actually wanted Malik Neighbors. So there's that. So Daniel Jones is definitely going to be excited to throw the football to Malik Neighbors. And the last interview that stood out to me was the interview with Drake Maye. So Drake Maye and Dable seem to speak the same language. If you know Dable's history, then you know that he's a great offensive mind. A lot of people will say, hey, we're not seeing it yet because of the quarterback situation. And this is why the next talking point is so interesting, because it seemed like Joe and especially Dable really like Drake Maye. You can see that they're like, hey, you're speaking my language when we look at Drake Maye and Dable's interaction.
Gundolphin right.
Gundolphin right, 72, Tundra, float, H angle.
Gundolphin right, 72, Tundra, float, H angle.
Yeah, so Tundra stands for what?
200s.
200s, and what does float stand for?
It's got the corner of the out.
Kind of flag. We call it a flag, so
okay.
I mean, we end up saying corner flag, but it's flag.
So
flag, and the angle is an angle. You got me on that?
Easy stuff.
Then you use Rita to the right, Linda to the left. It was a flip formation. Good?
Rita to the right, Linda to the left.
72, 5-man protection, slide to the will. So if the strength of the formation is right, what formation is that again?
Yeah, Gundolphin right.
Yeah, right. He's there. The will's over there. The line would slide there. We'd say 72 Rita.
72 Rita. Gotcha.
One of the most interesting thing that happened in this episode was the Giants basically saying, hey, we're going to go across the stadium and talk to the Patriots about moving up. The whole trade up thing is a non-story to me, because in my opinion, it doesn't really matter, because we know the Patriots wanted a quarterback and we're trading up for a quarterback. I've made tons of videos on why we took an L in this whole conversation about trading up, because realistically, the top 3 teams, we knew for months that they wanted quarterbacks. People were trying to sow seeds of doubt and say that the Patriots might take a wide receiver and how they don't want a quarterback. And they said, nah, we're taking a quarterback. When the conversation happened in the episode, they basically told the Giants, hey, we understand that you want to trade up, but you ain't the only one. And more than likely, they got better offers. Even though you got to consider, if it was coming from Minnesota, they're coming from further back, so you think they'd have to give more. But I would think so. But I think they had the assets to trade up. And I think Minnesota would have been the best option in terms of the team that should have been able to give them whatever they needed to trade up. A lot of people are saying that the Giants should have gave as much as they can to trade up. And I don't see why, because when a lot of the pros were breaking down Drake Maye, as much as I like Drake Maye, some of the pros were saying that they don't see him as a year one quarterback. And I know we have Dable, and Dable's great, but if the way they feel about Daniel Jones in episode 1 and 2 is true, that would mean that you draft Drake May and he would start for the first few games, and then Daniel Jones would play, because again, they're pretty adamant in saying that they want Daniel Jones to play since they're paying him already. So I'm not sure how that would have played out if we drafted Drake May. However, the situation never made sense to me. In this episode, there was some Saquon Barkley talk. Joe did speak to Saquon. He called his agent before that, and he was telling his agent that he didn't want to insult him. He wanted to see if Barkley could test out the market. And honestly, in my opinion, it seems like him saying that he wants Barkley to test out the market may have insulted Saquon Barkley, but I guess we'll find out in the next episode. Some people are saying they felt like Saquon Barkley, when he answered the phone, didn't want to be there, or should I say, didn't want to be with the Giants, which is crazy because he was literally saying, I told you how I feel and I told you where I want to be, which means that Saquon Barkley was telling Joe that he wants to come back to the Giants. Another thing I want to say about the Saquon Barkley thing was the franchise tag was off the table. So they did discuss the franchise tag for Saquon Barkley, and Joe says he didn't want to use it. And so that wasn't even something they were considering. And to wrap up my review on this episode, it was a great episode, they did show the segment of Cheetah 2.0. So no disrespect to Tyreek, because Tyreek ran a 4.29. The new Cheetah for Patrick Mahomes, he has the record of 4.21. And he actually ran the 40 twice, and he came in at a 4.22, and they gave him a 4.21, which the Giants scouts were like, hey, what the hell is that? You know, I didn't clock him at that. Then they clocked him at a 4.23. But that dude is fast. And they joked and said, hey, maybe we should draft him with the number 6 pick. And then all the scouts was like, nah, he gonna go in the late first. And so I want to see if he's going to be a good wide receiver, because I saw a name on that list that was second, and I said to myself, hey, wait a minute, didn't that guy play for the Giants? And it was John Ross. So being fast doesn't mean anything, but I kind of wonder if in a situation where we did take JJ McCarthy, will we have to trade back into the first round and maybe draft Xavier Worthy? I wonder. But tell me what you think about episode 2. You know, what were your thoughts on episode 2? Did you watch it? What are you hearing about episode 2?